been so long. I am going to, I think, invite some people. I'm excited because we have, oh my gosh, we have Austen Overman here with me tonight, and she is going to teach us about organizing our life. You guys are going to love her, love her, love her. Let me just invite a few people, see who I can get on here. Should be really fun. Anyway, I'm super excited. It's been a while since I've done a live. I know I can't get my phone back to where. I don't know what's going on. Okay, we're getting there. I promise we're getting there. There we are. Sorry about that. Oh my gosh, all these people are watching. There's Austen. I'm going to bring her on camera while I can. Anyway, so I haven't done a live in a really long time with a guest, especially. I'm super excited for this because Austen and I are actually doing something. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Oops, I'm good. How are
I'm
you?
good. So I was just going to tell everyone how we were going to record a podcast on Skype, but we decided last minute that we're just going to do a live and do it this way, and it's going to be even more fun and more interactive. And after our conversation over message today, I am like above and beyond excited for this conversation to happen. So welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, so I'm going to start and have you sort of introduce yourself, share what you are doing, what you're up to, and anything else that you want to share with everyone. And then I have so many questions, like just creative stuff going on in my mind. And then if people have questions, make sure that you guys ask me questions as we go. Austin's happy to answer them. And then if you want to make comments, that'd be awesome. I'm sure she'll answer, offline. And if you're watching on replay, #replay. And I'm just noticing my glasses are reflecting the whole entire room. I love it. I can't see without them, but anyway, so you are up, Austen. What's happening?
Not much. Again, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. So I guess I'll just start with introducing myself. I'm Austen Overman. I'm 24 years old. I live in Colorado with my husband, Austin, and our 2.5 dogs. We have a foster puppy right now, so we have a whole herd.
Nice.
Yeah, but I'm a full-time social media strategy manager at a marketing agency in Boulder. And then I'm also a professional organization coach.
Yes, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm excited. First of all, I want to know how you decided you wanted to be an organizational coach.
Yeah, that's a good question. So as a kid, I've always been organized. When I was little, I didn't really play with my Beanie Babies. I sorted them by color and size and species. I used to reorganize my room just for fun because that was a normal kid thing to do. I had a double planner system in college. When I was going to school at CU Boulder, I was already working full time. Austin and I were already married. I was getting my bachelor's. We were already homeowners. So that double calendar system really saved my sanity there. So organization has always just come really naturally to me. And I had people sort of in my direct sphere of influence ask me all the time, Austin, help me get organized. Help me take control of my pantry. Help me set up a planner.
Right.
Yeah. So I started to think, if I can help people that I have direct contact with, how many more people can I help if I start a business and start to reach out sort of beyond my direct sphere? And that's sort of how the business was born. There are a lot of professional organizers out there. They operate more as cleaning businesses, I would say. So you hire a professional organizer, they come in, they purge all of your stuff, organize it for you, you give them a paycheck and they say goodbye. But I was really drawn to this idea of coach because I think a lot of times people can dedicate a weekend to cleaning out their garage and then they don't have the tools or the mindset to continue that system or continue that that clarity that they get right after you finish a project. So being a coach, I really want to focus on building those connections with people and giving people the tools that they need to achieve that freedom in their life.
That's spectacular. I see that Geneva is watching, and I know that you have worked with Geneva, so hopefully she can
Hi.
chime in. There's a few people, there's about
Yeah.
6 people or more watching. My friend Jonathan just said, hey. I love that idea about your mindset and how it's like any other habit, right? Like you have good habits and you have bad habits. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like you can't break a habit. You just have to replace it with a better one. And so I'm sure that goes along with organizing. So I absolutely love that concept. So talk to me a little bit about mindset. Like, what does that mean in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So getting organized takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of dedication sort of in the upfront, a lot of self-reflection and a lot of hard decisions. And once you do that work, then it's easier to, like you said, build those habits. And I always tell my clients the best organization system is the one that you don't even have to think about at all. It's habit. So once you're in that mindset and set your mind to getting organized and being dedicated to building those habits, then you don't have to use up any of your mental space with any of that clutter, whether that's physical or mental.
Yeah. So do you find when you're working with clients, like you have to teach them about mindset first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like any other skill, something that you have to learn and work at. But something that I really find encouraging is a verse from Ecclesiastes. So, better one handful with tranquility than two handfuls of toil and chasing after the wind.
Mm,
So I think it's so powerful to think about what is important in your life and how your space enables you to pursue those things.
yeah. Geneva just typed something. Let me see what she wrote. But I do have a question about that because what if you feel like the things that like you want all your shit. Like you don't want to get rid of it. I know we're going to talk about that, but like when you say that, like it makes so much sense and it's like, oh, that would be so refreshing. And then I can't even tell you what the room looks like that I'm sitting in. You'll see when you come over, when you come over next week. But I was like, oh, well, I have a lot of work to do. So Geneva says, I've been the lucky recipient of your expertise. First, it was the brute force of cleaning out all of my art room access. I will forever remember you saying, do you really need 19 screwdrivers?
Right.
Well,
And you
maybe.
don't.
I remember,
It depends.
right. I remember Geneva saying that experience was really amazing. So we'll get into that. But so back to the mindset piece. So let's talk about that stuff because there are some questions that people have provided that we're going to go through. And one of mine is like, what if I need that? Like, I knew I'm going to need that one day. Or I wish I would have not gotten rid of that because now I need it and now I don't have it. And then you get, in that space. So how do you work through that piece? Because I think that's the biggest thing for me. And I'm assuming it's that way for others as well.
Yeah, definitely. I have a list of
Ooh.
questions that you have to sort of train yourself to ask yourself, especially when you're in the step of purging. So when I start a project, we have a free consultation. I get an idea of, my client's goals. I ask them, how do you want to feel in this space? So when you walk into this space, whether that's, an art room or it's your kitchen table, how do you want to feel? A lot of times that's at peace or calm or at home. So if you train yourself to ask questions, one, to stop the flow of clutter into your home,
Mm-hmm.
that's the first step. And two, when you're purging, to put yourself in the right mindset, have I used this in the last year? How do I feel about having this item in my space? Does it bring me joy, or does it bring me anxiety or frustration? If I do need it, could I borrow it from someone? What access do I have to maybe renting this item? So a lot of times people end up with so much stuff that they're spending money to store their stuff. So would it be cheap? Would it be cheaper for me to just rent this item? I mean, a boat is a good example. Like if you have a boat and you use it once a year, the cost over the course of a year, it might be cheaper to just go ahead and rent that item.
Right.
What is it costing me to keep it? And that could be money, like I said, but it could be your time. It could be your space. It could be your sanity. So thinking about the cost of having that in your space. Do I have anything that might serve the same or a similar purpose? So if you have one screwdriver, the one that's a flathead and one that is a Phillips head screwdriver, then maybe that is enough. And if you have multiple uses for multiple screwdrivers, then maybe that's a good reason to keep those. But just getting in that mindset to ask questions about what that item might be costing you when it's in your space is a good way to sort of make that decision a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that concept of asking questions, because I think people don't remember, or they forget, the best way to start like thinking about something is to ask yourself those questions. And they have to be like really good quality questions like you're asking. So let me ask you about, you had said, like, how do you want to feel in this space? And what comes up for me is like this like energy that you put off, like the law of attraction type of thing. What do you think about that? Like it's an energy, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. And some of that is the space around us reflects the space that's inside of us, and vice versa. So if you are feeling chaotic and cluttered and scatterbrained, then that is something that's going to reflect your habits and therefore your space. So when you get into a place where you're ready to let go of physical clutter, then you make room for yourself to do the real work and unclutter the you inside.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that, because you're right. I think that people who hire someone to organize them, like you were saying, like they just go in and they clean your stuff out, but there's really no, it's like, I don't know, there's really no deep work, right? You just, oh, now my house is clean. It's like you hire a cleaning service. You're like, oh, my house is clean, but next week it's just going to be a pig pen again, because they're going to come back and they're going to clean it. I'm going to pay them, but there's really no change in behavior. So your approach is amazing. So let me just look at these questions that we got over. So both Austen and I put out feelers for questions. So we talked a little bit about mindset, and then I guess maybe, and you kind of talked a little bit about where to start. What if someone doesn't have an Austen in their life? How could they start? How could they like take like top 3 things that they could start doing right away?
Just to live a more organized life, or to tackle a project in particular?
Let's do organized life, because I feel like if you're organizing your life, you could tackle something a little bit easier, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll let you answer that.
No, that's a good question. Yeah, like I said, building habits is really the number one way to live an organized life. And I guess now I'll tell you about my one touch rule,
Yes.
just as an example, because it fits in really well here. So picture this scenario, and you can probably relate. You walk in the door after a super long day of work, you're exhausted, you need to get dinner ready. So you take your purse and your jacket off and you lay them on the kitchen counter. And then you start to get dinner ready, your jacket's in the way, so you move it to the kitchen table. And then dinner's ready, so you move your jacket from the kitchen table to the couch so that you all can eat dinner. And then finally, after you're done cleaning up dinner, you move your jacket from the couch to the closet where it goes. By then, you've touched that jacket 4 different times, when you could have just walked in the door and touched it one time and put that jacket where it belongs. So just building
I love
building
it.
that. Yeah, you wasted 4 times. You wasted the mental energy to find a new place for that jacket. So building the habit of putting things where they belong is a really good foundational step.
Yeah, I am so guilty of that. I'm just thinking where I laid my purse and my jacket down, and it's definitely not in the closet.
Yeah, yeah. So something I do, and this actually also keeps my car really clean. So when I get home from work, park the car, I stuff my arms with everything, my purse, my gym bag, my lunchbox, all the things, and I bring them all in the house. And then immediately before I do any other thing, I put everything where it belongs. So lunchbox away, dishes in the sink, jacket hung up, purse on the hook, you name it. That way, everything's done, everything's already prepared for the next day, so you don't have to waste any mental space the next day looking for your lunchbox or your keys or you name it.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to think about it.
It's that thing that you were talking about earlier. It shouldn't be super thought. You shouldn't have to think about it. So, because we are famous for moving stuff around. I swear, I think I've moved like things that are so easy, like piles of receipts, like those types of things. Like we move those from, the table to the counter to maybe if people are coming over, we'll bring it in the office. And it's like we don't have a system quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
So how important are like systems for those kinds of things in your work?
Super important. And I think the number one most important thing to remember when you're creating a system, or if I'm helping you create a system, is it has to be something that works for you
Mm-hmm.
and your family. Because if it is way up here and it looks Pinterest perfect and you're so excited about it, and then it's too difficult to keep up when you come home from work and you're exhausted after a long day, then it's not helping you build those good habits. So for the paper clutter one is a super good example. You can have a really great filing system, and I think a filing system is super
Mm-hmm.
important, but I am not going to pull out my whole filing system every time that I bring the mail in.
Right.
It's not reasonable. It's not going to happen. So instead I have a small basket on the kitchen counter where I open up all the mail when it comes in, so that there's nothing, I'm not putting off that decision to at least open it and get rid of the junk mail. But then it sits in the basket for a week. And at the end of the week, I move everything from the basket into the filing system that I have in my office. So it doesn't look Pinterest perfect. It looks like I've got a bunch of mail in a basket on my counter. But
That's funny. I was going to ask you, are you ever messy or unorganized?
yeah, I have a junk drawer. Don't tell.
Shh, nobody tell anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a really good point that you bring up. Is I was listening to your podcast with Vanessa. I believe that was
Yep.
last week. I just listened to it this week, and you talked a little bit about how we teach the things that we need the
Mm-hmm.
most. And I teach my clients that things don't have to be Pinterest perfect.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be perfect all the time. They just have to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And being a perfectionist that's something that I have done a lot of work and myself on.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, like the whole Pinterest perfect, and it's like there's that piece that comes up, like don't compare yourself to others, don't compare your organization to someone else's organization, like show up and make it your own. And I think that's important
Mm-hmm.
because I think we all do look at, oh my gosh, look at that beautiful house. Oh my gosh, look at that Pinterest page. Oh my gosh, look at that organization. And you're like, I would love that. And you're right. Sometimes it's just not sustainable. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work. So like it's so like flexible and not cookie cutter, and I think that people would really dig that about working with you. I know Geneva does. What else is she saying here? She's so great. She had so much fun with you.
I'm so glad. That makes me so
Let's see
happy.
here. I'm sure you can read it, but I think that's where your expertise comes in, actually coaching someone to learn the rhythm of where to put things the first time round, also where things fit into your world and make it flow better. That's amazing. And this was like a year ago, right? Is it a year ago that you worked with Geneva or
Yeah.
longer?
I think it was a year ago in the summer. So over a year ago now. Wow. I can't believe that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
crazy.
amazing. Pat on the back for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh no, I
Fantastic.
just, like I said, I like to give all the tools, and then if it works once I'm gone, then that's the ultimate success for
Right,
me.
right. So let's get to some of these questions that people have asked. And one of them, and I think that you answered my question about, I think I'll use it one day. I think about like tools and like screws and nails and like garagey stuff sometimes, or like crafty
Hmm.
things. And that was like my biggest thing, which we're going to work on. I'm excited to have you come over and look at that room next week. But so let me ask this question. What about things that are really sentimental? How do you work with that?
Yeah,
I'm
this
going to
is a
take
hard
notes.
question. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to tackle this one for my clients. And I like to borrow Marie Kondo's um, method of thanking the item. So if you do decide that you want to part with something, thank it for the memories that it gave you, the memories that it triggers in you. And I think it's also important to remember that an item is only sentimental because of those memories that you have, and that no one can take those memories away from you. So you can part with an item and still have those memories that are dear to you. So thanking the item, thank it for serving you, and then ask yourself if it's still serving you. And if it's not, then part ways with it. But if it is, then keep it. I don't believe that you have to be totally minimalist and get rid of everything that's non-essential in your life. If it's bringing you joy, then you should definitely keep that item. And if you do decide that you want to keep it, make sure it's not just sitting in a box in your garage, because like I said, it's only bringing you joy because it reminds you of those memories that you have. And if it's in a box in the garage, then maybe you feel that sentiment once a year when you unpack a box in your garage. So if you can find a way to repurpose the item for a different use, I think that's a really good way to keep that sentiment and like the memory of that item alive, while still getting more use out of it. So if you can, use a shadow box. I know a lot of people have used shadow boxes for like their wedding memorabilia. People will frame their wedding dress, stuff like that. So that way it's serving a purpose and not just taking up space. So that's a really good way to start with that. Something I really like to do, if it's an item that I decide that I don't need to keep, is gift it. So my mom is probably watching, but they
Shh, we won't tell her.
well, my parents recently gave me about 5 boxes full of giraffes. So when I was a kid, I collected giraffe items. So I had 5 bins full of giraffe stuffed animals and mugs and puzzle pieces and all the things that, a 12-year-old girl would save with a giraffe on it. So knowing that maybe 5 bins worth of my collection wasn't going to serve me anymore, I culled it down to 1 bin of things that I do wish to save, maybe for my future children. And then the rest of the things I decided to give as a baby gift.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
I'm 24 years old. Everyone around me is having babies. So every time I have a baby in my life born, I gift a giraffe.
Oh, that's
So
an awesome idea. I love it.
yeah, so that way, the item isn't just going away. You're not just donating it or throwing it out, but it's serving a new purpose in a new life.
I like that a lot. That's amazing. And you earlier you said about if you haven't touched something in a year, talk about that because I've heard that before and I go through my closet every year. I was like, I haven't touched that for a year and I've been pretty good, although I kind of trick myself. And that's the other thing I want to talk about is like tricking yourself. Um, like, so I'll wear it for like maybe half a day. I was like, I did wear that. I did touch that in the last year. So you like you trick yourself, right? Like that's
Hmm.
what human beings do, right? We figure out what's BS and what's not, and I think that we just trick ourselves. So do you find that you have people that you work with that do that as well?
Yeah, and that's when it gets kind of hard and you have to have a little bit of tough love, and why it's so valuable to have a coach to help you through that, because it is so easy to get hung up on the, well, if I ever go to a ball, then I would love to have this dress. It would be the perfect dress if I ever, am invited to a formal ball.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and having someone else outside of that mental space that can say, are you going to be invited to a ball? And if you are, you don't think that you could, find a dress or borrow one that you just absolutely feel beautiful
Mm-hmm.
in. And, having a little bit of that outside perspective can really help. But if, you don't have someone there to walk you through that, then getting super real and honest with yourself about what your life looks like and how those items are going to serve you in the life that you're living
Mm-hmm.
now and not the life that maybe you
Right.
envision or you want to live in the
Right.
future.
I think I'm just giggling because well, you'll see this all next week, but I have a whole bunch of like um, party stuff. Like we're gonna have friends over for parties, and we always joke. I was like, I don't think I can get rid of whatever because when we have a party, and my husband and I laugh. We're like, wait, when are we ever gonna have a party? Like we're just not those people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's also this question about the sentimental piece, and then we have a couple more questions. So, what about things that like parents or grandparents or friends give you and you feel guilty about getting getting rid of them? Like that's a big one for me. It's a big one for my husband. So this is a total selfish question, just so everyone does. But I would hope everyone might have the same thing.
Yeah, and my biggest advice for that is to not let the expectations of others dictate the guilt that you feel,
Mm-hmm.
um, or the way that you want to control your space. This is one of the reasons that I'm really big on, like spending time together or giving
Right.
experiences for
Mm-hmm.
gifts, because taking that item and saying, I'm going to keep this in my space and it's going to continue to cause me guilt every time I look at it because I know I don't want it, but I feel like I should keep it because I have this guilt. And then also frustration because it's in my space and it shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's not serving me. So letting go of that guilt and letting go of that item also. I know that sounds horrible. If
Nope.
you've ever given me a gift, I loved it and I kept it forever.
Right. We just hold on to things because I think, and maybe we can sort of go into this a little bit. I know this is a big topic and I kind of sprung it on you late this afternoon as a topic to think about. Um, like the difference between generations, like your generation, you're 24, I'm in my 40s, and then our parents' generation, which is a whole nother generation. And there's difference in like things that we have versus experiences that we have. Not that either one is, better or worse than the other. It's just different. And so I'm curious, not only in the generation thing, but also in our experiences we had in life. Some people grew up with more, some people grew up with less. And how does that impact, in your experience? How does that impact what we hold on to and how easy it is to maybe let it go, if that makes sense?
Yeah, excuse me. I think it has a pretty significant impact on the type of clutter that we acquire.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that I feel in the generation specifically has a lot to do with how the different generations define success.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people in the boomer generation identify their own personal success with material
Mm-hmm.
possessions. And maybe a lot of people who are in Gen Z identify their personal success by their accomplishments. So one group is accumulating physical clutter, and the next is accumulating mental clutter.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the same things that they sort of hang their hats on. But I think no matter our generations, we really just have to ask ourselves what really matters to us. Because there's nothing wrong with having really nice things and being proud of your material possessions. But as soon as those things aren't serving you,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to do that hard work within yourself to say, maybe I should part ways.
Yeah.
Um,
So you said it a few times. It's not serving you. Explain more. Say more about that. Like, what does that really mean to you?
yeah, I think one, so everything in your space has an impact on your body and your thoughts. So, for instance, the receipt pile that you spoke of earlier, having that sitting on the counter, even if you're not doing anything with it, you're not really even thinking about it, you're still seeing it and it's having an effect. Maybe it's just something in the back of your mind that says, like, oh, I got to take care of that. And you do that 500 different times in a day, and all of a sudden your mental space feels cluttered also. So the things that you have in your home should give you the freedom to be the person that you want to
Mm-hmm.
be. And if there's too many things blocking you from that, then that stuff is no longer serving you in the sense that you can achieve the things that you really set out to achieve. Does that
It
make
does make
sense?
sense. I think about like visualization and like vision boards and energy and law of attraction. And I think about all those things. And you're absolutely right. If you put things in your space, and I am just looking around here going, oh, good Lord. But if you put things in your space that you visually see unconsciously, subconsciously, I get that confused, subconsciously, those are what things that you're going to remember more than the things that you see out in the world. And I that completely makes perfect
Mm-hmm.
sense to me.
Yeah, and you internalize your physical
Mm-hmm.
space. That's why having nothing in your physical space it might serve you sometimes. Like that's why a yoga studio might have nothing in it except for a few candles and some
Mm-hmm.
mats. So you're making way for a space that is intended for clarity. So in a home office, maybe you want your space to reflect what you want to achieve in your
Mm-hmm.
career or your business, and surrounding ourselves with things that we can internalize that get us closer to our goals is an easy way to get closer to those
Right,
things.
right. That makes complete sense. I love that. Um, so let's a couple more questions. I'm going to save this one question about wasteful, but so here's a question. Is there such a thing as being over organized to like the point of being obsessive?
Yes.
Have you been, I was
Guilty.
like, have you been told that?
Yeah, and this is something that I have done a lot of work in myself to overcome. I mentioned that I'm a perfectionist. I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm an Enneagram 1,
Mm-hmm.
and when I discovered the Enneagram and realized that I had really this fixation on perfection, I realized how crippling it could be and how much stuff I was holding back in order to achieve this, false idea that I had of perfection. And so when you're fixated on something and it's stopping you from achieving what you really want to, then that system is not serving you. So for example, if you have a planner and you want your planner to look perfect, then it's not serving its purpose. You want your planner to be something that you can go to for reminders and to keep all of your stuff organized. That's its purpose. I actually have mine sitting right here.
Oh, I would love to. Oh, yep.
And it's messy and it's crazy, and I write things in here that look insane. Like this page is insane, and I write in the margins, and it took me a long time to get to a place where I felt like I could use something for its intended purpose and not get fixated on this idea that I had in my head that I wanted it to look like. So with being too organized, I think you have to take a look at your system and say, this system should be giving me freedom. It should be serving me in a way that makes me feel confident and makes me have clarity and makes me feel calm. If your system isn't doing that, if it's causing you anxiety or frustration, then maybe that system isn't serving you as well as it could. And it's time to take a step back and say, how can I change this to serve me better?
Right. So let me ask you a really quick question, because you have a paper planner. And I also know that your sister has a paper planner, and I'm not sure about your mom, but is there something about like pen to paper, pencil to paper that makes that type of planner better than, say, like an electronic planner?
I actually do both.
Okay.
So I really like having a double planner system. That's kind of what I've coined it. The act of physically writing something down helps you remember it better in the first place. That's proven in all the science that they've done with taking notes in class. The physical act of writing is a good habit to get in to train your brain to remember things. And then I think there's also, I like to journal also. So there's something kind of therapeutic I feel about pen to paper. So that's just my preference in keeping a physical planner. Also, I can throw sticky notes in it. Like I said, it looks pretty messy most of the time. To the outside eye, it does not look organized, but it is a system that serves me. So my goal when I'm working with a client is to figure out what system is going to be easiest to build that habit and to continue that in the long run.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if an electronic planner system is something that works for you, then by all means, just do that. Don't push yourself to achieve a physical planner just because you feel like you should, when that's not really how your brain is wired.
Right. So I recently, I'm going to guess maybe a month and a half ago, decided that because I am a pen to paper type of girl, decided I was going to start using OneNote and do all my notes and planning in OneNote. And the first week I was like, this is brilliant. I don't have to lug around notebooks because I had so many of them. And there's something there, because I believe like the artistic side of writing something creates evokes some emotion for me, and then it can create for me, it creates motion, like action. So I miss that piece, and I think that I will probably I told myself I would give it 6 months. I'm not sure that I will make it 6 months, but that's the whole goal, is to see if I can do an electronic thing. But I really feel like there is something emotional about writing and doodling and journaling and all those sorts of things. Do you find that too?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like I said, I'm a huge journaler. My journal is everything from business ideas to thoughts and prayers, and you name it. It has everything. I get really attached to my journals.
Yep.
When it's all filled up and I have to I keep those. I think it's kind of fun to look back and flip to a random page and read your entry from 2 years ago. There's something special about that. So that's an item that like I said, is serving me in this season.
Mm-hmm.
So I choose to keep. But yeah, the pen to paper, it's not
Yep.
replaceable for
I
me.
agree with you.
But I also do use like my note app in my phone. There's sometimes where I just don't have access to my physical planner or a notebook, and I really need to remember that thing.
Right.
Or, it sometimes when I need to like switch things around often. Wow, you're probably gonna make fun of me for this, but when I'm doing my grocery list, this is so beyond organized. um, but when I do my grocery list, I always shop at the same grocery store. I go to King Soopers in Brighton, and throughout the week when we run out of items, I just throw whatever the item is on my note app in my phone, and then I sit down before I go to the grocery store and I reorder the whole grocery list by where the item is in the store. So that way I walk in the door and I know that the tomatoes are here, and then I go to the onions, and then I go to the bulk nuts over here, and everything's really efficient, and my list is in order of the path that I take counterclockwise in the grocery store.
Yep.
So it's a lot easier to have that in electronic form, because then I can reorder things.
Yeah, I use electronic notes for my grocery list too, but I do not reorder them. And the thing is like you're onto something, because I will notice that, I'll put things like I kind of try to do interesting counterclockwise, because I think that's how most grocery stores are set up. But I, produce first, and then meats and dairy and whatever else, is on the outside of the store. But sometimes I don't get things in order, and I'll be over in dairy and I forgot something back in produce. So I might try your method there.
Yeah, it makes it really efficient and leaves me more time to look at all the home goods.
There you go. There you go. So here's one question that somebody chimed in. How do you get over feeling being wasteful when you're decluttering your space?
Yeah, this is a hard one too. Environmental stewardship is super important to me. I would definitely consider myself an environmentalist, and I think it's really important when you're in that purging phase of an organization project to be really intentional with the items and where they're going once you decide to part with them. So some of my best tips are to, one, sell or donate first. So if you have a perfectly good blender and you just decide that a blender isn't serving you in this season and you're never going to make margaritas for 25 people, then throw that thing on Facebook Marketplace and make a couple bucks. A lot of my clients' projects actually pay for themselves because they end up parting ways and selling things that were in their space before. So selling is a huge opportunity. Taking anything that can be donated. I also love to thrift, so support your local thrift stores. And then look into hard to recycle programs. So in Boulder, there's a ton of resources, whether it's, small appliances or, you name it, you can take it to Resource. They take a lot of hard to recycle items there. And then if you just Google how to recycle denim. So say you have a pair of jeans that hasn't fit you since high school, but they're too ripped up to really take to a thrift store or sell. Just Google how to recycle old denim. And for instance, the store Madewell, if you go in and donate your old denim, they'll give you $20 off your next pair of jeans. So there's a ton of programs out there for hard to recycle materials. And it's a really easy way to make sure that those things aren't just landing up in the landfill.
Yeah, that's impressive. I know that you are definitely an environmental steward. Just because your mom has shared stories with me about single use things. We were at a conference just a few weeks ago, and there was like a lunch, and she made a comment about, oh my God, if Austen were here, she would be livid. And it was like this box lunch. So it came in a box, and then the sandwiches were wrapped in like cellophane, and then the cookies were wrapped in cellophane, and then it was all this stuff. And I was like, I never really even thought about how awful that was. So I did get to learn that about you, and I was like, I love her already.
Yeah, so I carry around a 32-ounce mason jar everywhere I go. I was actually sitting in Starbucks last Friday, and this nice old lady, tapped me. Did your latte come in that jar? It's like, no, I just said bring it with me everywhere. So yeah, I get some weird looks
Man.
sometimes when I pull out my reusable napkin and a fork from my purse.
Oh, I've done the same thing too. Yeah, I dig it. So, did any other questions come in on your side? Let's see if there's anything here. Any
Let's
questions?
see. I don't see any over
Okay,
here.
awesome. So I have a couple questions that I ask everyone that comes on and does an interview with me here on the Heartbeat. And I love these questions because it just makes people think a little bit. And so my question for you, Miss Austen, is what is the difference between bravery and courage for you?
Yeah, I love this question. So I really think that courage is something that God places within us, and bravery is having the faith to actually act on that. So courage is sort of inward facing, and bravery is the act of doing that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be brave without feeling courageous, but you can also be courageous without being brave.
Mm-hmm. I
So,
love that. The reason I love that question so much is because it's so individual and personal for people, and there's never a wrong answer. There's absolutely never a wrong answer. And I think it sometimes gets people just thinking about things. And, I think about, I use that in a lot of scenarios. And I probably, to be honest with you, in all sincerity, will probably have to really think about that when you come and meet with me next week and we go over things. And like, I'm going to have to really figure out for me, like, so for me, the courage it shouldn't really take a lot of energy. It's that bravery piece. It's like, okay, I really need to be brave enough to say to myself, I don't need 15,000 stacks of fabric pieces. I don't need them. So it's those kinds of things that, for in this particular situation that I honestly, things, I'm super get sentimental. So you might have your work cut out for you, but we'll share what's happening next week in a second. And then next question, what do you fear the most and why?
I could get, kind of deep and feely on this one, but I'm not going to. And I'm going to say that I hate moths. I hate
Mm-hmm.
them. I think they're gross and they're dirty, and they somehow find your ear to fly
Do you
into.
think that's
So,
really true?
so in my house, I kill the spiders as long as Austen gets the moths.
Gotcha. That's funny that you say that because I think every little kid has been told they'll get in your ear. And I don't really know that
Oh,
they
and
do, but that's funny.
even even if they just sit there and they
Oh,
flutter, somehow they find their way right
hmm.
here, or like right in your
Yeah.
eye. They find an open orifice and they attack.
Oh, moths. Yes. Mothman is definitely gross. Geneva's laughing.
No. Yeah.
And so, as you know, my coaching practice is Wholehearted Life. And so when I ask you, like, about living from in and from your whole heart, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I love this question. I think a year ago, I would have told you that it means giving everything you do 110%, always showing up as your best self and doing everything perfectly. But through this sort of self development that I've been working on, I've sort of started to discover that that mentality ignores a huge part of our human
Mm-hmm.
experience. And we're not always perfect. And even when we're not perfect, we're still 100% our wholehearted selves. So for me, living a wholehearted life means giving yourself the grace to just experience things as they are and enjoy things as they are, even if they fall short of
Mm-hmm.
perfect.
Ugh. That statement in itself is pretty darn near perfect. That was amazing. And before I forget, share with people how they can get a hold of you, how it works to sort of connect with you and get rolling on any sort of project.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at austen.overman, on Facebook, either Austen Overman if you want to send me a friend request, or my business page is austenoverman.organizationcoach. And you can also send me an email anytime, austenoverman@gmail.com. So sort of the process when we get started is send me a message. I want to really get to know you first and figure out what you struggle most with, what your goals are. We'll set up a free consultation. If you're in the Denver metro area, I can come and actually physically look at your space. That way I can get an idea and we can chat about it in the space. If you're outside of Denver, then we can do a free consultation via video chat. Like I said, I really want that connection so that we can, build a system that's really right for you.
Right. Fantastic. So what's happening next week for people listening on a podcast a year from now? You'll be like, what is going on? But we're going to record a video. Austen is going to come over, and I've chosen I think my craft room. I'm scared to just make a commitment. So we've chosen my craft room to just sort of do this process with, and we're going to video it so we can show folks how it is to work with Austen. And so that's happening next week, and I'm really nervous and excited at the same time to do this. I know Geneva will probably be like, it's all good, it's fine. But I would love to have seen her at the beginning of hers as well. So that's what's happening next week. And we'll get that video sometime edited and put up for people. But yeah, I'm being super vulnerable in that video with you.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm here for, because that's why I exist in the world. Tackling those hard projects takes a friend to walk by you and just help you through it and talk you through some of those harder mental habits to break. So I'm super excited. Just know that it's so normal to feel nervous and vulnerable, but I'm just here to help. So I think it'll be awesome.
Yeah, and I think I'll warn you now that you'll probably have to do more tough love than you realize. I think as open as I think I am, I feel like I may just shut down at some point, and you'll probably have to bring me back to life. But I'm excited to do that. And then any other things you want to share with people that are listening or here on our Facebook Live tonight?
I think just if you're considering, getting your life organized, just know that the power is already in you. You just have to start asking yourself the right questions and building the right habits. And if you feel like you need a little extra help or need a friend to walk by you in this season, then, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. I can't believe that was an hour. It went so fast. I feel like we probably could have talked a lot longer, but I appreciate you. I dig you. I love what you're doing, and I'm sure that this isn't the last time that we'll get together and chat. So thank you all for watching, and let us know if you have any comments. Comment. I'm sure Austen will be happy to answer any questions, and make sure that you follow her because she puts out some good content, and she is an amazing energy to have in your social media presence. So awesome. Thank you, Austen. We will chat soon.
Yeah.
And
thanks so much.
Yep, we'll talk later. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.